Hello, beautiful creative friends, it's Belinda, and today I'm here to share something that's a little bit new for my channel. It's something that I have talked about in the past, but just never got around to sharing here. Don't really know why that is, but I did ask over on my Instagram channel recently whether or not there is interest in seeing my Project Life albums and spreads. And overwhelmingly, the response was yes. So I thought I would start bringing a little bit of that into my YouTube channel. I've gone back and had a look at my Project Life albums, and in truth, although I started my first Project Life album in 2016, I only have 2 completed albums, just 2. I have 2017 completed, which is this one here. I also have 2018 completed. 2019, I've just got a couple of months spreads to finish. And then the years from 2020 up to now are in various states of completion. And what I found when I went and had a look at this 2017 album is this is the first year that I really got into it. In 2016 was when I had just been introduced to it, but I was very sort of hit and miss. I was also in the first year of being a mother. So 2017, this is the first year that I really worked on documenting our weeks and later on our months in this format. I had no idea what I was doing at this stage. I didn't have a craft room. I didn't have really any supplies or resources set up to do larger format layouts. So this was really all that I was doing. And in the beginning, I was documenting pretty close to the weeks. And then as time went on, I kind of fell further and further behind and had some time to sort of think about how I wanted to approach it and to start refining my style. So I think this is a really good album to start off looking through because you can see the evolution as we progress through the album. So I'm hoping that this isn't going to be a super long video. It may be, and if that's not your thing, I completely understand, but yeah, let's dive straight in. So to begin with, we've got the cover page. One thing that is consistent in all my cover pages is that you'll always find some photos, some recent family photos. At this point, of course, it was just the 3 of us. One of the things that I noticed here is the really thick, and throughout this album, is the use of really thick dimensional pieces. So these are some what are they called? I can't think of the word now. The thick plastic pieces, this Hello 2017 and Fresh Start. So it does add quite a lot of bulk to the album, and it also sort of adds, stretches out those page protectors a little bit. That's not something that I do in my albums now. We've got some chipboard pieces. And this is really just a random collection of things that I found. This was, I think, something that I saw on Instagram. There's probably some digital journal cards that I've printed out, and then some journal cards that I would have had in my stash. So to begin with, in this album, I was documenting a week to a spread. So I'm using the Design A page protectors, and I apologize that there is a little bit of glare here, but unfortunately it's just unavoidable with the light. So I was using Design A page protectors, and I was doing a week to a spread. And then there were times where there were little inserts for that as well. At this point, I was really inspired by Ali Edwards. I was subscribed to her kits. I was purchasing just about everything that she was putting out. And this is when she was still documenting her project life in this same sort of way with a week to a spread. So I was really inspired by that, and I drew a lot of ideas from her. Now you can see that I've got typewriter here. When I look at this, I know that I was using a typewriter that I had purchased because it just looked so good. it looked really good. And here is a picture of that bright fuchsia pink typewriter. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. I paid way more for it than I should have, but how could I not? It was perfectly pink, but also perfectly impractical. But despite it being a really pretty and interesting color, it was actually terrible to type on, like really, really terrible to type on. There was a lot of shadowing going on with the letters. It slipped a lot. It was really hard to line it up. The keys were hard to press. So I did persist for a little while, but then when we get a few pages in, you'll see that changes. So yeah, I've got this full page spread for the week. This was an insert for an event that we went to on New Year's Day. And then because I wasn't doing any larger format scrapbooking at this point, I did include like a little insert here, which was just a photo of Violet drawing with some crayons, and that's the actual drawing that she did. And this was significant because this is the first time that I'd actually given her any crayons or anything to play with. So that was her first little attempt at mark making. I love that it's in this album, but I will probably go back and create its own little layout for her album itself. And as I said, like we've got lots of different things going on here. We've got pieces cut out from journal cards. We've got some really thick chipboard stars here. Week 2, I do have some flip ups. Again, something that I noticed here is that I haven't actually used any tabs or anything on these flip ups. So it's kind of hard to know that there is a flip up there. So I might go back through this album and just add some little tabs or something here. You can see I'm using repeated elements of washi tape. I'm also using some repeated elements of some numbers here, and that's just so that I can coordinate that with the journaling that was in here. I was also getting kits from Studio Calico at this point, so that's where that little chipboard pencil is from, and there will be some journal cards in here from Studio Calico as well. Flipping over, I brought in some of my alpha thickers here. This is a journal card with a little foil word sticker over the top of it. So you can see like it's following quite a formula where I didn't have a full 4x6 photo for one of these slots. I'm just making a little collage that's in Photoshop. I'm doing those, or I'm using a smaller photo and then adding some journaling onto the side of it. And I was also trying to play around with having these title cards be a little bit different. So for this one, I grabbed, it was a Kelly stamp set, and just did a repeat stamping on the background. And then I think I had these week numbers. Have I used them here? Yeah. So those are consistent. Those week numbers, now I can't recall if they came from a digital journal card or if I had physical journal cards for them. But I was trying to repeat that element in the title card there on each spread. We went to see Bruce Springsteen, so I printed out the tickets. I also went and found his set list and printed that out just to include that there. You can see here that I didn't have any photos, so I've just put in a full-size 4x6 journal card there. Also repeating some elements here with the alpha stickers and with some stamping as well. So it's quite formulaic. We've got the photos, we've got the journaling generally is going through the middle here, and then just adding bits of journaling in as it's needed. Week 5, this was my birthday week, and again, this is where we're getting a bit chunky here. I don't actually know why I've got that little clip there, but this was a story about my birthday, so I've added a little tag in there. Again, we've got the photo collage down here when there's no 4x6 photo to fill that slot. This is those same foil word stickers. And I've made myself a little note here because this is where you can start to see that the old typewriter was being phased out, which was used on this journal card here. If I hold that up a little bit closer. And I had gone and got myself a newer typewriter that didn't look as pretty, but it was far easier to type on, which is what this one here was made with, or the journaling here was done with. And that typewriter I actually still use now. I've since sold this one, as pretty as it was. It was just no good for me. Here we are onto week 6. I was trying also to think about the overall aesthetic of spreads while I was creating these, and also trying to get a mix of stories in from the the events that were going on, as well as just the everyday kind of snapshots and things. You can see that I've tried to stick with a bit of a color theme here. But this one's fairly basic. I'm also trying to bring in a little bit of handwriting, and you'll see more of this, I think, in a couple of pages' time. So this was a prompt card, and I've just filled it in. I actually really wish I did more of these, or that I do more of these kind of prompt cards. I just don't think to do them, and I think it's a really nice sort of snapshot of what's going on in life at that particular point in time. So I think I need to try and find a way to do a little bit more of this in my documenting. This one here, I really went for a love theme, it being the week of Valentine's Day. Lots of photos of little Violet, as you can see. We've got going for a walk, and you can see the repeated elements here of these little circle chipboard pieces that I've used around the place. And pink, what can I say? Of course it's pink, that's very me. You can see we've got a real colour theme going on here, and when I look at this one, I know with absolute certainty that this is a hybrid spread. So I was using some journal cards that I already had. This one I think is from Elle Studio, and then I used some journal cards that I had digitals for, and I've printed. So I've gone for a colour theme here, and then I've just gone and found supplies that matched. And you can see that here I've done a fair bit more hand journaling on this one. So I've written in by hand. Couldn't say at this point why it was that I did that. It may be that I just had some cards nearby and I wanted to get stories written down and getting them into the pockets. That may be nothing more than that. I've also started to deviate from that format for the title card as well. So you can see that, consistency is just not really happening. I was really, really just learning how I wanted to do this project at this point. So I know now that this is this point where it was starting to get a little bit too hard to maintain the weekly documenting that I had been doing. I was at uni. I had started studying at uni. So there was a lot going on. I was trying to keep up, and I was going through, and there would be random weeks where I would have some photos in and I would have some sort of journaling notes jotted down. But on the whole, it became really, really hard to maintain. And so I ended up having to go back and trying to fill in gaps in journaling, and, things where I had photos. That was pretty easy for me to figure out what it was that I had intended to put in these places. But where I've got these things to remember about March, I have no idea what it was that I was intending on putting on that card. So I just decided to leave it blank rather than spend a lot of time trying to remember what it was. I just left it blank. And again, you can see I'm using repeated elements, the cork pieces, and that's something that I still do in my documenting as well. I do try to keep things looking cohesive across a spread. We are in week, I've stopped numbering the weeks. I've just got the dates in here. So we're in March. Again, we've got a mix of handwritten journaling and some typed journaling. And this is where I'm starting to see little bits of what is going to become my style for these pocket pages, where I've got strip journaling happening, and I've got little phrase stickers with an embellishment on a photo. This is where I'm starting to sort of find my feet a little bit with this project. Coming over here, again, we've got some really chunky elements. The other thing I noticed when I was looking through this album is the use of the see-through pages. Now, that's not something that I see in my newer albums, and that is purely just because I don't actually have the space for it anymore. But again, I just love the way that looks. I definitely do things like this in my December albums, and it's something that I'll try and do in some mini album projects, but I do like the sort of the way that it looks inside this pocket page format as well. This one here, it was this one I did do in the moment, and it's because I had received this kit from Ali Edwards. It might have even been a part of a week in the life kit. And so I knew that I had like a formula that I wanted to follow. So we've got the ate this, drank this, and then the same sort of, oh, that one doesn't have a little stamp on it. The same sort of little stamps, styled stamps there going around on the photos. But you can see that it's getting to be a lot simpler. The spreads are becoming simpler, and that's because I was just having a really hard time keeping up to date, and was, as much as I tried to let it go, it's just not something that I was able to do. So here is where I said that I've got more of that handwriting coming in with the currently cards. So for this one, I printed it out, one for me and one for my husband. I think these came from Studio Calico, so I filled in one for me, and he filled in one for him. And yeah, I see Margarita's finishing my margarita. That is absolutely absolutely him. And this one to me, it just looks like I was using up a whole lot of stash here. So I've got some printed journaling cards. I've got some puffy stickers. I've got some of those perforated word phrased sheets that came from Ali Edwards, but still trying to look at having some kind of theme, either with prompts or products or colors. So this is definitely looking at colors here for this one. This is another one where I know that it was hybrid, because I can see these ones here were digital journal cards that I had. And again, you can see that I'm repeating some of those elements where I've got the letter stickers, the alphabet stickers, and then here we go again with these typed journaling strips, which I've typed up on the typewriter and cut down into strips and adhered down. And that's really starting to move into what will become my style for these projects. We're in April now. Most of this was a weekend or a few days that my husband and I went away to Sydney for a wedding. That's why I've used the geotags here, just to show that we were in Perth, then we were in Bayview. And yeah, keeping things pretty simple. I've got some Elle Studio stuff coming in here. I think I'd bought, and this is another Elle Studio one. And you can see here that we've got this format happening again, where I've got the little strip and an embellishment. We've got the strip and an embellishment, the strip and an embellishment, the little word strip and an embellishment. So it's we're starting to see a bit more of a style coming in now. This one here is really simple, because this is the week that I did Week in the Life for, so there is a separate album for that. And just because I didn't want to have an empty space in my album, I've taken the photo that was used as the title for each day in that Week in the Life album. I've used those for my 4x6, and then the only journaling that I've got here is just referencing the fact that there is a Week in the Life album for this week. This one stood out to me when I was flipping through, because it's really quite different to anything else that's in the album. I'm going to assume that I was really inspired by Ali Edwards, because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that this is probably something that she had done in one of her Project Life spreads, which I saw and I really liked. So we've got the journaling typed onto some longer style, what are they called, labels. These would have been done in Photoshop because they are all the same size, and then the journaling is slotted inside them. Then I've cut them down and stapled them onto each of the main photos. And then for the photos that are running through the middle, they've got a number which is stapled down, and then that corresponds to the journaling in the middle. I really do actually like this, and this sort of idea of numbering photos to add journaling. That is something that I do in my albums a little bit when I'm running out of space. It's just a nice way to sort of be able to contain journaling to one spot, but not get lost about what the journaling is relating to. And as you can see, this was the week that I found out that I was pregnant with Jack. So that was a bit of a surprise to start that week. And this one here, I think, is just a bit of stash busting. Oh no, this isn't. This is probably some Gossamer Blue. Who remembers Gossamer Blue? I subscribed to them for, I think, about 2 or 3 months before they closed, and I was pretty devastated, like many people, because I really loved their products. I loved just the versatility of them. So I'm pretty sure, yes, this was made with Gossamer Blue. And yeah, that's about all I can say about that one. Another one that is following a formula, and again, I'm sure that this was directly inspired by something that Ali Edwards had done. It probably came from a kit that she had put out. If you're not familiar with the story kits that she used to produce, every month she would produce a kit that was themed, and then she would share videos within the classroom for that kit on how to use those. She would pretty much always include a Project Life spread, as well as some other documenting. So this one here looks like it was related to an EAT story kit. And you can see, again, I've done that same thing where I've numbered my photos, and then that relates to each of the little journaling spots. And this was really food themed. So I was definitely just taking photos of food that we had eaten that week and documenting that, but then still including a couple of little stories here about Violet. And here's that strip journaling again that I mentioned is going to become a part of my style and my approach when it comes to Project Life. Another special little layout here. This was when my now husband, proposed to me. So again, I've got a little flip up here, but you can't really tell that it's a flip up, so I'm going to have to put a little tag on it. This was stash busting. I actually remember creating this layout. So I had a paper pad, which was from Teresa Collins, I think, that had a whole lot of gold foiling on it, and it was really like themed towards love. And I just grabbed a couple of little journal cards because there really wasn't a whole lot of space to fill in this spread. And then these little pieces, the hearts, they are all from Felicity Jane. So that was definitely a stash busting spread, but really easy to do because I had so many photos for that week. This is another one here. I think this was created with some Studio Calico products by the looks of it. I really love the colors in this one. The pinks and the teals go really nicely together. So here I am definitely, I've made a little note there. Here is, I'm going to suggest that this one was probably made quite a long while after these ones were made, because this is when I am actually really seeing my style coming in. So I think probably what happened is by this point I had started on my album for 2018. And in that album, I was using different products and I had a really different approach, and I had a much clearer vision of what I wanted my spreads to look like. I realized that I didn't want them to look like Ali Edwards spreads. I wanted them to look like my spreads. So we're seeing some of those hallmarks here, this strip journaling coming in here. So printing, rather than having a block that then goes onto the journal card, I've typed it up onto my typewriter, cut it into strips, and then adhered it onto the journaling cards in the relevant spots. And this is again moving into that new style. So I knew that I was almost halfway through the year with this album. And while I was working on my 2018 album, I was also trying to go back and finish this album. And this is actually one that I took into the living space in our house and was trying to get it done out there. So I was quite minimal in what I was taking with me. I just had a box of journal cards, a box of embellishments, some paper and trimmers and adhesives, and my typewriter. And it just meant that I could sort of sit with Violet or with my husband and watch TV or do whatever it was that we were doing and put these spreads together without too much fuss. But it was still taking me a while to get them done. Because I was documenting weekly and I was tracking it. I had a little tracking sheet that I had put together and I was tracking it, but I was starting to realize that if I was going to try to continue this album in a weekly format, aside from the fact that, you know, that's just the first half of the year and you can see how much is there. Aside from the fact that I was going to run out of space, I was starting to realize that if I was going to continue in a weekly format in this album, it was probably never going to get done because I was also trying to document 2018 in a weekly format. So I was really trying to make it work because that is what I had seen other people doing, but it just wasn't working for me. So I think we've got probably there we go. This is the last weekly spread that I created. So I realized that weekly just wasn't going to work. I went back through and re-looked at the photos that I was going to use, and I decided to switch to a monthly format. And to begin with, I had to finish off on this design A, but I knew that if I was going to be doing a monthly spread, I would need more slots for photos. So I switched to, this is design F. We've got a 4x6 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 3x4 slots. This is the page protector that I now use for all of my Project Life albums. It's a format that just works really nicely for me. It means I've got lots of space for photos and I've still got lots of space for journaling. So we've now moved to monthly. I went and purchased a little digital calendar template. I think this is probably from Paisley Press, and decided that that would be my title page for each month. I liked that I could get the month there and the dates with the calendar and still have space for a little photo. And this is something that is still in all of my Project Life albums where I am doing monthly documenting, is you will still see this little calendar piece with the photo in there. And as I said, you're starting to see this and this and this. This is where you're really starting to see my style that has been refined. And this is definitely reflective of the way that I document these now. I will have a square photo. These are usually 2.5 by 2.5. I will add some journaling using strips down the bottom and then add some embellishments to the photo. So that was July. Here is August, and here's where you can see what the whole spread, I'll just take that out, what the whole spread looks like. So this is a month. We've got the 2 4x6 photos, a whole bunch of 3x4 photo pockets, and I can either, put some photos in, or I can put some journaling in. I can also use them as little filler cards when I don't have enough photos. I really, really love the way that this looks. And I think the reason that I had chosen to go with these Design F page protectors is at this point was when 9x12 albums had first appeared on the scene. And I was seeing a lot of people documenting in 9x12 albums using it was more the 3x3 journaling card format. And I just loved the way that looked, but it was pretty much impossible for me to get 9x12 albums at a reasonable price here in Australia. So for me, this was the next best thing. This is kind of a mishmash of old style and new style here, because I have got some sort of typed journaling onto the journaling cards, like where I've typed it straight on, and then some where I've got the strip journaling here. We went to see Seinfeld, so I printed off the ticket for that and then just used, this is one of the 3x8 page protectors from Ali Edwards that I just slotted that into. Again, another flip up here, but you can't really tell that it's a flip up yet, so I'll have to go back and do that one. So just as I was reaching the point where I was starting to really understand the way that I wanted to document in this format, I was really starting to find my own particular style of documenting in this format. I discovered Citrus Twist kits and I subscribed to them for quite a while. And I really loved having those kits there for me. And again, it allowed me to create outside of my craft room, because I had all of the papers, I had all of the journaling cards, I had all of the different types of embellishments. I had just a little bucket which had some dividers in there, had all of those things in, and I could just sit down at my little folding table with my typewriter and create. And I didn't have to keep running into my my craft space for supplies, because I had everything there at my fingertips. I would like to keep doing that now. I'm just not quite there yet. So from here on, you'll start to see some Citrus Twist products coming in, but I'm still also using products from my stash, because I had a lot of journal cards and things that were still left over. So you'll see that there's, I think here, this looks like some Citrus Twist stuff, but this could be a Studio Calico here. And I also really like including just some bits and pieces from life in these albums. So this was the Father's Day card that that Violet had made for Lee for Father's Day in 2017. So I just grabbed a page protector. I've got all kinds of, the little stickers come off. I've got a whole bunch of different size page protectors that I stocked up on before they stopped becoming available here in Australia. And I just found one. This is probably an 8x10 that fit that little card in there. And as I mentioned before, you're starting to see a little bit of my style coming in here, where I've got the photo, I've got the white border, I've got the journaling, and then the little embellishments here as well. Using my Photoshop software, I had created a whole bunch of templates, which I still use now. Templates which I can then, where I've got multiple photos that I want to go into one spot, I can just drop those photos in, and that's a really good way of filling a pocket and getting more photos. So this here is definitely looking more like my style of creating in these pocket page formats. 100%, this is just about 100% Citrus Twist, with the exception of perhaps this one, which looks like it is an Ali Edwards kit. So you're seeing that same repeated stuff here, where we've got those square photos on the journal cards with the journaling, the little embellishments here. We've got that calendar with the big photo. We've got some strip journaling. I'm noticing how often I had created these little photo collages, and I really like these photo collages here, if I can show you this one, where I didn't have enough for the 4 photos, but then I've just filled that gap with a little bit of pattern paper. I really like the way that those look, and I don't actually think I've done any of that recently. So I'm going to try and bring a little bit more of that into my my upcoming spreads that I work on the newer albums. And here we are in November. This was quite a photo heavy month here. Again, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I'm definitely, I've found my groove now. I've got my photos, my smaller format photos, onto the journal cards with some journaling in there. Got another little flip up. That's the repeated element with the calendar and the 4x6 photo, that's almost like a feature photo. This is really, really close to the way that I document now in these albums. But I don't use physical products anymore. But in terms of aesthetics, this is very close to the way that things look now. So you can see that from the start of 2017 right through to the end here, you can really see that evolution of style happening. And I really loved experiencing that when I came back and looked through this album. The other thing I'm noticing on this spread, which is something that I did quite a lot of, was I had my little heart-shaped, my punches, my hand punches, and when I didn't have embellishments that really fit the spread or that fit the card, I was creating them myself using just some heart-shaped punches or heart-shaped dies. So that's really fun. I like that, and I should probably try and remember to do a little bit more of that now. And then we finish off with December. So December is just a single page, not a full spread. And the reason for that is that I do have my December daily album, which is like a daily, at this point in 2017, it was definitely a day-by-day documenting process. So it just didn't seem necessary to have that full spread for December. So it's really photo heavy. These are almost exclusively non-Christmas photos because most of what went into the December album was really focused on Christmas. Of course, this was when our little Jack arrived in December 2017. And then we just finish off with some New Year's photos. And I think this is a little pull-out. I actually think I had given this to Lee, this little card. I actually think I had given that to him in his lunchbox one day. He was supposed to have had a lot of time off work when Jack was born, but because it was his employer reneged and he had to go back to work and he was pretty devastated about it. And so I think I had just popped this little card into his lunchbox to take to work one day with a note written on the back of it. And then when he brought it home, I popped it here into the album just to keep it, just for memory's sake. And so that's it. We've made it to the end. If you are still here with me, thank you so much. I do hope this video has given you some inspiration. And if you'd like more, you'll find some linked on the screen at the end of this video, as well as down in the description box below. If you enjoyed this one, a like or a comment would mean so much to me. And of course, you're always welcome to subscribe for more. But I will leave it there for now and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.